Peter Pan, Chapter 14, The Quiet Life. As time went by, Wendy and her brothers began to forget about the life they had left. Their house in London, their parents, and Nana all seemed very far away. Wendy knew that the nursery window would always be open for her and her brothers to return. What worried her, though, was that John only dimly remembered their parents, and Michael hardly remembered them at all. In fact, Michael thought of Wendy as his mother now. Wendy felt it was her duty to keep their old life from fading away. She decided to make a test for her brothers, just like in school. The Lost Boys joined in as well. They all made small writing slates for themselves and sat around the table. They began writing and answering the test questions. Wendy created some yes or no questions, such as, was father taller than mother? She made up multiple choice questions like, what was the color of mother's eyes, blue, green, or brown? She also had them write essays. The topics were, how I spent my last vacation in England, and a detailed description of the nursery. Once the boys were finished, Wendy marked their little slates with a check mark if the answers were correct. She'd make an X if they were wrong. Needless to say, the answers the Lost Boys wrote were silly. They had never met Mother and Father or lived in the family's house in London. Still, they all had fun. Only, it was sad to see how many X's John had on his test. Peter was the only boy who did not take the test. Except for Wendy, he hated all mothers. Peter was also the only boy on the island who couldn't write or spell. He felt he had more important things to think about, like his next adventure. And adventures occurred every day. Sometimes it was a bear hunt. Other times it was a tangle with the pirates or the Indians. The little underground house was the quiet part of the children's life. The adventures outside were much livelier. And though Wendy liked their quiet life at home, she admired the daring and carefree spirit of Peter and his gang. John and Michael both enjoyed the excitement of Neverland, but sometimes it was scary and dangerous. To please Wendy, Peter invented his own game. He would pretend not to have adventures. He pretended to live the life that John and Michael had had before coming to Neverland. He would catch a ball in the air or throw a ball to the other boys. Then they would push each other around, trying to get the ball away from each other. Peter also went for quiet walks, for what he called a breath of air. Sometimes he just sat still, watching the sun go down. It was always an unusual sight to see Peter doing nothing. He looked so solemn during these times that one had to laugh. But this game did not last too long. Pretty soon, Peter lost interest in pretending to be a normal boy and went back to his adventures. When Peter went out alone, Wendy never knew quite what to expect. Often, he'd say he had just gone out for a breath of air. But when Wendy went outside later, she would find something strange on the ground. A torn jacket with golden sleeves, or an Indian war club. Other times, he would tell a story about how he shot a grizzly bear, but no bear was ever found. Sometimes he came home from his quiet walk with his head bleeding. Then Wendy would fuss over him and wash his cut with warm water. She was never quite sure what to believe, but there were some adventures that she knew to be true because she was in them.
Little Fox.